So first we're going to start with Cristina, and you tell us, what is EcoAct?
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you, Dana, for the introductions, and also thank you to the organization for inviting us. We are very happy, and I'm personally very happy to share this panel with these amazing individuals and professionals. EcoAct is an international consultancy and project developer. We are based in different locations. We have offices here in Paris, in London, and in New York, and I personally manage the operations of EcoAct in Barcelona. And our team of experts work with large organizations, complex organizations across the globe. We help them understand, address, and manage the challenges that they face because of climate change, understand the impacts that climate change have on their businesses, and also how they are contributing to climate change as well. And we do that by looking at the risks, identifying actions that they have to take on, looking at their strategies, and also understanding what projects they should be financing for eventually offsetting their emissions and becoming carbon neutral.
Now, why, in your opinion, is sustainability in fashion so important today? We heard Brune Poisson, the minister, speak a bit on this as it pertains to France, but what about globally?
Well, I think she said something that it's the most important thing. The fashion industry is currently the second most pollutant industry in the world. So, of course, sustainability needs to be a lever, and things need to be done in a sustainable way. And, for example, she mentioned the Fashion Pact and this set of companies committing to carbon neutrality before 2050. We at EcoAct, we have been working, for example, with Gabriela Hearst. For those of you who don't know her, she's a very well-known fashion designer. She presented in New York, exactly. So she presented the first ever carbon neutral show in the last London Fashion Week in 2019, and we helped her achieve that. She wanted to understand everything from their show. What was the impact of the production, of the staging, of the installation, from the catering to transport, from waste to energy. She wanted to understand the full impact of her show, minimize it, and then we help her as well identify a project in Kenya she felt very related to and she offset the emissions with. So she did that for personal values and to align her brand with her personal values, but I think she also understands, and we are very much in line with that the fashion industry has so much influence over society, and they have a platform that needs to be used to educate and to raise awareness, and that's just one example of how awareness can be raised. And we will see more of that in the London Fashion Week. We cannot say more, but we will see more of these type of events very shortly.
Great. Now, Sandeep.
Hi.
With the groovy shoes.
Thank you.
Can you tell us the story of Allbirds, which I find charming, optimistic, and inspirational?
Thanks, and thanks everyone for having us. It's, as you said, Cristina, it's a pleasure to be here. So we've actually only been going to the consumer since March 2016, and ultimately we're about trying to do what we call better things in a better way, and for us that's a simply designed, super comfy or groovy shoes, as you've called it.
Groovy shoes, especially the waterproof ones.
That's right, yeah. Well, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think really the way that we're thinking about sustainable fashion is how can we create products that people really want to buy and make sure that they're just sustainable, and therefore the best products will be those that are sustainable and not just ones that have been produced without thought and without solving a real problem. And for us, that's about comfort and design. Now,
the founder of Allbirds is a former athlete, correct?
That's right. We actually have two. We have I don't have to say a soccer player because we're in Europe. We have an ex-footballer, Tim Brown. And we actually have another co-founder who's a renewable engineering expert. And Tim's first insight when it came to Allbirds was actually about how can we create a simpler designed shoe that strips away unnecessary details. And as an ex-athlete and footballer, he was quite often given lots of free items, and they quite often had flashy logos and an overuse of synthetics. And he started wondering, why is the footwear industry operating like that? And being from New Zealand, where sheep outnumber humans 6 to 1, he started playing with the idea of working with wool. And a couple of years later, crafted a shoe, got together with Joey, and it really then became about a bigger mission to try and do better things in a better way and actually change the way the industry works.
Exactly. So they're made of wool, New Zealand wool.
That's right, ZQ certified wool from New Zealand. So that means that the sheep are treated in the most humane possible way.
As I'm wearing a Stella McCartney suit today, and her sustainability person said, yes, it comes from New Zealand, the wool. Happy sheep make better wool.
That's absolutely right.
And the shoes have, as we can see, no logos. They're really simple. And their goals as well were to make the most comfortable shoes possible, right? Wasn't that sort of on the list?
Absolutely, yeah. I think comfort in footwear is a global insight. Everyone loves comfortable shoes, and sure, you can't wait to get back in your Allbirds.
Well, these are not bad, but those are better. And so tell us about some of the new material solutions that you all are coming up with. I know that you told me about one that sounded really cool, and you're about to bring to market.
Yeah, so maybe I'll talk a little bit about, and I am now showing off the shoes. The biggest part of a trainer or a sneaker typically is the sole.
Right.
And what we've done is actually introduced a new way of creating the sole, which effectively strips out petrol, and we've used sugarcane instead. So we've created a new material called green EVA, which is actually in all of our shoes, and that material is actually carbon negative at source.
Carbon negative.
Carbon negative at source. And,
fantastic.
You know, I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot today. Ultimately, if we stay calm and rational on this deep, deep problem of sustainability, if we can attack it from a carbon perspective and just stay focused on the scorecard,
yes,
I think that's where we'll have the most joy. So we're really proud of this material, but we're also more proud to have made it open source. So we have over 100 companies that are actively looking at working with the material, and delighted to say 20 companies will actually put that into some kind of production this year.
That's fantastic. So we can get petrol and the plastic element out of shoes, essentially.
Absolutely. I think that will, be a continual challenge that we need to ultimately move towards renewable materials, and that's why we work with natural fibers. They are renewable. It takes our need for fossil fuels away, but moreover, they also have generally a low carbon intensity.
Absolutely. Great. Now, Pierre-François, can you tell us about the Fédération and what sort of brands are your membership?
Yeah, we gathered 600 brands everywhere in France, not only in Paris. And it's also the factories that we gather, and it's mostly independent brands. So we don't gather fast fashion brands, and we are not also representing the luxury brands. It's brands like Bache, like Tara Jarmon, like Gérard Darrel, and also many growing and fastly growing independent labels, like Noyoko, like Patine, like 1083, who are really very much involved into sustainability.
Right. And how has the Federation helped them tackle this issue of sustainability?
Yeah, 4 years
because
ago,
France has been a little behind the curve until suddenly now it's the leader.
Yeah, everything goes very fast in our country. But last summer, as the minister said, there was this fashion pact, as you know, but our federation didn't wait the fashion pact, and we started 4 years ago to be involved into this sustainability journey and to implement several researches as well as workshops with the brands, and we developed also specific guides in order to help them develop a sustainable supply chain, because we know that it's really 80% of the impact is really focused on the supply chain. So with the support of a French organization called Défi, we decided to publish and to propose all the French brands, with not only the ready-to-wear brands, but also the lingerie brands, the menswear brands. We propose them a tool that they can download on pretaporter.com for free, for sure. And this tool can help them define the diagnosis, where they are, because many brands do good things, but they don't know that they do good things. And they need to improve on many, many issues also. So we propose them a journey and a very practical way to set up into their own companies the way to improve their sustainable journey. So it was very important to us because 4 years ago, I must say that when we proposed to the board of directors of the federation the fact that we had to go into this sustainability and fix the sustainability issue in our industry, I can tell that I was a little bit, not always very well approved, or people were a little bit laughing at us because we were late, as you said, and France was late. But I must say also that I'm very impressed by the fact that the CEOs now are very, very much conscious in our industry that we have to improve. And they are really tackling the issue and trying to fix some issues in their own companies. And we know it's not easy because you have the sustainability issue, you have the innovation issue, you have human impacts. It's a very broad journey. And the markets are difficult everywhere in the world, especially now with the Asian coronavirus that we know. So, but still, everyone is involved and wants to go in the right direction. So the Federation supports all the initiatives of the government. So we participated and we helped Mrs. Brune-Poisson's cabinet define the right words and in the law that will be passed this afternoon. So
That's so exciting.
Step. It's really a big step for the French industry.
It really is. And I remember you told me that it was an astounding number of the newcomers who joined the Federation.
Yes, 80% of the newcomers.
80%?
Yes. Have already developed a sustainable way to develop fashion. So it's not always the same way because, as you know, there's a journey, but you can have different priorities, human and social responsibility, environmental issues, animal cause also. And I don't think there's only one response, to all those questions. But 80% of them have already integrated a sustainable
practices.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is fantastic.
Into their business model.
And it's a new wave, isn't it?
It's definitely new. 3 years ago, I couldn't say the same thing, really. And
is it generational, do you think?
It's completely generational, and it's still very creative at the same time. So it's not sustainability and against creativity. It's both, for sure, because you have to develop a desirability when you also have this sustainable impact. But it's amazing to see the movement. People want to give more sense to their consumption, and the entrepreneurs who go into fashion today are really focused on this kind of sense-focused, sustainability-focused business model.
Do you agree with that, Cristina? Is it generational? Do the millennials have this already built into their ideas or their point of view when they come to you and say, we're doing this or we want to do this, and with the older companies you're saying, you need to do this?
I think in general the way that at EcoAct we work with the clients is about partnering with them and being their partners and accompany them in this problem. So yes, it might be something generational. It might be something about the millennials being more understanding or more proactive, exactly, when buying. But it's also about for me, the important element is also that the CEOs and the companies and the strategic leadership of the companies take this seriously and incorporate climate risk into the culture of the business, the same way that now financial risk is incorporated. So yes, the consumers are asking for that, but I think the push also needs to come from the top.
Right. Now, you said you worked with Gabriella Hearst, who I think is terrific. After you did that show, did you have more requests from other fashion brands to do the same for them? Or do you see a wave of fashion designers who want to have zero waste or carbon neutral fashion shows?
Yes, I think so. I think it's coming. I mentioned I cannot say much because it's still confidential, but there are some more things coming up in the fashion industry, and not only for specific luxury fashion brands, but also on the the bigger consumer companies, such as we work with one of the biggest companies in Spain in fashion retailer, understanding all the impacts of the supply chain. Pierre-François mentioned the importance of the supply chain and how a big impact comes from that particular area. I think that's a challenge. It needs to be addressed, and it's important to understand what and where the problems are in order to tackle and put adaptation actions in place.
Absolutely. It's funny because we're sitting here actually in ground zero of what may have been the least or the most tone-deaf fashion moment when it comes to sustainability that I know of. And a lot of people complain, and that's when Chanel held their fashion show here. They always hold the fashion shows, couture and ready-to-wear, in the Grand Palais. And they shipped down an iceberg from Greenland and put it in the center underneath this dome. While it looked really cool, people were like, you brought an iceberg how far away for a decoration for a fashion show? And it sort of lit the internet on fire and the social media on fire. And they haven't done anything quite since then. And now in the fashion industry, when everyone wants to sort of trot out well, you know how tone deaf they can be. There was that time Chanel had an iceberg in the middle of the Grand Palais. So now fashion shows are telling them, like, if we do a big decor, we're giving it to schools to reset for sets for their shows or for theater. Somebody had a bunch of flowers, they donate them or put them in compost.
Yes, and one of the things that I don't know if you're aware of, the latest Vogue issue in Italy, the January 2020, actually replaced photo shooting by fashion illustrations, which is very good in order to also try to raise the awareness of what is the impact actually of photo shooting around the world. So I think some more, definitely, beautiful. And some more of these things will happen. I think it's a trend.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to ask everybody what I've already said. I'm wearing Stella McCartney out of wool made from happy sheep in New Zealand. Sandeep, what do you have on today besides your cool groovy?
So I can't talk about my Allbirds clearly, but I'm actually wearing a merino wool jumper and some jeans which actually I've had for about 20 years. So it's interesting. I was thinking about this morning, knowing that you may ask me this question. And 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been a consideration for me.
2 years ago, it wouldn't have been a consideration.
Totally. But I think now, just the idea that you can be a little bit more responsible and ask questions before you buy.
Have a think about what you're wearing.
Exactly, yeah.
And can you tell us, because you're working with a company from there, why merino wool is considered a sustainable product? What makes it the go-to product when you are designing wool-made shoes or a sweater for sustainable reasons?
Absolutely. I think the first thing I'd reiterate is it's about creating great products first and foremost. So
last. I'm wearing a Tom Ford turtleneck that I got in the 1990s.
Great.
From Gucci Tom Ford.
I'm just also proud I can still fit into jeans from 20 years ago.
Exactly.
But I think it's first and foremost about making sure that you're designing great products. So wool has pretty miraculous materials. It's moisture wicking. It provides a great comfort experience.
We have been wearing it a long time.
Yeah, completely. And we use the same quality of wool that goes into like $5,000 Tom Ford suits. So firstly, we use it because it's a great material for the product. And then the fact that it is renewable and we responsibly source it, the sheep are treated in a humane manner, makes us less reliant on fossil fuels.
Yes.
And clearly the idea that today has a better...
And animal welfare as well.
Absolutely. Really important.
And they don't overgraze because they're not overpopulating the island. Like we have the problem with Mongolian cashmere sheep creating desertification because they overgraze.
Yeah, and when you have bodies like ZQ that will make sure that things are held to the highest standard, you can have confidence in that. And we also think that there's interesting plays on regenerative farming, which could actually be transformational for the wool industry.
Exactly. And Pierre-François, what are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a Veja, which are also nice sneakers. Sorry, I'm French.
Anyone who's doing anything in the space,
and I love yours also. That's great. I'm wearing a sweater by Noyoko, which is a sustainable brand, and it's a wool sweater also. And Noyoko is one of the brands that we support in our talent acceleration workshops and program at the Federation.
Fantastic.
And the entrepreneur is here, and he's great. So we are very happy to have many entrepreneurs here that we support. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for the job that you do. I'm wearing everything made in Europe.
Excellent.
And that's to me very, very important. Made in France, made in Europe.
Keeping it local.
Exactly, very much.
It's not about necessarily made in France, but not being shipped all over the world nonstop. The wool comes from here, the rubber comes from there,
Yeah.
the buttons come from here, it all gets sent there, then it gets made here, and then it gets on a ship sent there where it's stored and then sent to the stores.
Exactly.
That's the biggest part of the global footprint, isn't it?
Definitely. So that's one of the reasons why I try to really focus on made in Europe. And my underwear is made in France.
Fantastic. And Cristina?
Yeah, well, I'm wearing an organic cotton blouse, but I think, in the same way, I have these trousers for 10 years. So
Fantastic.
again, I'm happy that I still fit in my trousers 10 years ago. But I think apart from the materials, who are very, very important, I think as a consumers, we also need to be conscious of the use that we give to our clothes. So for, of course, prioritizing quality over quantity. Always less is more, but also the way that we wash our clothes is important. Try to wash them in cold water instead of in hot
short
water.
cycles.
Short cycles, so that we reduce as much as possible the energy used in the process.
And water.
Exactly.
And releasing less microfibers.
Yes, I actually have like a microfiber bag to wash my clothes in, so in order to eliminate as much as possible the microplastics going into the ocean.
Exactly.
So it's about the raw materials, but it's also about the use that we give
Use
the
and care.
clothes. Yes.
Absolutely. Great. Now, what are some of the other, do you have any other examples you can suggest about how consumers can play a role? Washing their clothes less, using cold water, any others?
Wear
One
the
or
clothes
two.
you buy.
Wear the clothes you buy.
Because there are so many you don't wear that it's a little bit stupid to buy them. So please wear the clothes you buy.
One of the astounding statistics I learned while researching my book is that the average garment is worn 7 times before it's thrown away. 7 times. Now I'm wearing a sweater I've been wearing since 1998 or 97. So that means that I'm offsetting somebody else who doesn't wear anything once. A lot, many people. So we have to wear our clothes longer. And what do you say, Sandeep?
I would obviously agree with that, and there's aspects of fast fashion that just make no sense and need to stop. But I would also question and try and get people to ask questions of the brands that they're buying. What impact are those brands having end to end on the world? And we heard some interesting stuff about how maybe that gets certified and maybe that becomes a little bit more visible, so consumers can actually look through some of the greenwashing that's out there and just keep things rational and understand what is the carbon impact of this item actually having.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dana.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.